Good morning.
Good morning.
상원을야 나루들이 섬주셔 나루들이 쉬하다 아니 양가 따들인데 미담 조진의 선주 위켄 인자가 미망부지 배샤 저 그냥 성로려야 and 다지 샤발이 수샤다 and some shy.
I would like to begin by wishing everyone good morning. And in particular, I would like to extend a greeting of welcome to all of you who are newly joining our gathering due to having more time in your schedule on the weekend. So welcome to everyone.
You mean the 中文的翻译可以听到吗？听不啊？听说昨天那个声音好像有点小。啊，所以我也不是技术组的，所以我也没办法。大姐。인데야 ngaje shalya ga kalura chi komda dewe thone chi ma de jero ga isre ta dene chi ju shalya dene jambe yang gi wang cha limre ta jun jambe yang gi chi dan jambe yang jamyang ta de ji rig damage kashe xiong do de ina da jama masingi wang di chen ya man ro sam chen su kare se chung du ne jama masingi ko le ji ju this ji pa sha ro this yo are che za di gyun ze de jama masingi wa cha ro pu si.
As for today's schedule of events, the morning session will be devoted to some remarks that I will share about meditation. And then in the afternoon, we will have a Manjushri empowerment. And generally speaking, there are many different aspects or manifestations of the deity Manjushri. But from among all of these, I thought that it would be good if this afternoon we could proceed through the empowerment of the form of Manjushri that is known as the Lion of Speech. The Lion of Speech. And I think that this aspect of Manjushri would be particularly fitting because it's a form of Manjushri that I have had a connection with since I was a small child.
다들이 ngaje shalya gumchi cha imre gumchi cha shawre sondu da gumchi cha bля 수수 gumchi chenge khona gom ge tware ji 냠뇨로 갈아간섬 유에된게 이제 충분히나 곰지치아요 땅 안으로 처음에이나 미세기 지금 야로 이제 게 용구면도 lots of journalists somewhere 따지 망보치기 상거 망보치 알아야 아니 기르스도 when you wake up somewhere in the morning what the sort of first thing 가르쳐다지 당부디 first thing of 야가 당부터 가르쳐요. I think they are wondering maybe I'm every day they expect every day I'm doing some meditation, these sort of things. Because His Holiness Dalai Lama every morning is doing this meditation. There's a similar question they're asking me every time. Actually, I'm a little bit embarrassed. I say, then it's difficult to say I didn't do anything, any practice. Then I says, yeah. Then also it's difficult to say I'm really doing some meditation or practice. This is sort of, sometimes it's very difficult to answer this question. Then of the day, Santa. Daji Zozo di Kajuraji, Rosani and do some other way. Chawaji the Chichi make up Lina, Chick Temper the Sicilian Danny, the Jig Tone, Kalakan Chick Anji Kajuraji Semla Kajuraji moment to moment focus ya. But I'm not doing that much of formal meditation. That's why I don't have any meditation experience. Then it's very difficult to talk about meditation today. Or maybe they know I'm not doing not so well. That's why I'm there. Make me difficult. They set up this program to test me.
So in terms of this morning's talk, which is to be centered around the topic of meditation, ideally speaking, if you're going to have someone give teachings about meditation, then you would want that person to have some amount of experience doing meditation practice. But in my case, I really don't have any special experience doing meditation practice to speak of. All kinds of journalists are always asking me, what is the first thing you do each morning when you wake up? And I think most cases they're asking it as a kind of a leading question because they have some type of expectation that my response is going to be that the first thing I do every morning when I wake up is meditate. Because as is well known and as has been asked of him many times, His Holiness the Dalai Lama practices meditation every morning after he wakes up. So on my part, I feel somewhat embarrassed when journalists ask me this question. It's difficult to say that I don't do any meditation practice. I can't really say that because I do engage in some contemplation and mindfulness practice and so forth. But at the same time, I feel that it's difficult to really say that I'm genuinely doing the practice of meditation in a formal, ongoing way. The main practice that I try to maintain is having mindfulness and awareness in all of my activities, whether it be moving about, sitting, lying down, or what have you. I think I do manage to maintain that practice, the practice of having moment-to-moment focus in my mind. But apart from that, I really don't have much special formal meditation experience. And therefore, I think it's going to be very difficult for me to teach about meditation today. And I think that perhaps the organizers of this program knew this, and therefore they made meditation the topic of the program in order to test me.
따라데 상회 계시면 시래 대상 점링 토래야지 다 메디테이션 섬을 공자 토래야 도나 사버지 도나 슈치버지 요한디야래 다디 요한이메디 쇼치는 아주 건드사고를 슬라비나 구글 나로래야 search 섬을 왜 search 제베 장감 디기 체시들 따지셔는 아주 하고 낭바 부디즘 자들 낭추 따지 낭베 추루자 진짜게 고려 지 수십 천개인데 디측디 천개인데 만용주 디 공고려 천개네 고용주 공고려 천개인데 부디즘 자들에베 가르 시라기 장가 토예 그지 이 천개는 망아요 그지 들 도나치가 망아요 이제지 구글 나로래야다 서티커스 이제 뜬거 제가 디 토안에 가랑한 좀 아주 가르친 거 알았잖아 지 남배 추스민들이야 추루 근데 민다셔들이야 도나치게 시라 매비체 이나디 나래지 곰냠네 샤사 즉 메디테이션 사 마인드풀니스 사 이게 들려 도나치게 야 즉 슈처럼 좀
As all of you know, these days in the world, there is growing interest in the topic of meditation and in the topic of mindfulness. And we can see evidence of this strong and new interest very clearly if we look at statistics from Google. The statistics from Google show us that searches for meditation or searches connected to topics such as meditation are very numerous. There's a very high number of searches that have been and are being conducted of people wanting to find out more about the topic of meditation. But then, if you look at the statistics connected to searches about the term Buddhism, you see that the numbers drop off very sharply. So that there is a great many more people who are searching for information about meditation than there are who are searching for information about Buddhism. And I think what this shows us is that there is less interest in the topic of Buddhism per se in comparison with meditation, because Buddhism has been given the label of being a religion. And because of that label, I think it affects the degree to which many people are interested in the subject. But since topics such as meditation, mindfulness, and so forth do not have the label of religion associated with them, we see a great surge of interest.
다들 초진 셰비는 good news doje mi mambu chigi ji komnya ji tonayong de chadi ma ji welcome kusu shugo arbuchi da ane ma ju teleya tona chego arbuchi ma ju di to gong to le mina ma ju mang ji ngale la bege ji ka jue tonan je gwa ji da ma ju lo ju che gwa cha de cho ji ne worry nga zo liya da ji simte de ji yong di simte de ga yong di wa na kali ji gom yam len cha de di sang lo commercial purpose samar da ji chong zhe de cha da ji tin je gi yin ga yue de ji kuran tang bu gi ga shu de ji kuran gi su yun gi se na da tang bu ni yue de be kuran ji rin tang jin dang ro di be nyam ji kali ji ting sang yo ga ne shi cha yoga sa dang ma ina kuran ya ga gi ne ru gi adara spiritual practice to ji di na ne ya be sang we gi thon secret very secret practice to cha de le ya kuran ji jin dang ro di da ga ji chong zhe mei ba de ti sha ji cha de da ine de kali zhe bu ni kyab ge shi bu shi che ju san da di sang 다做的 commercial purpose 所下去，用的啊。这上电能性，就我们家两人下山的生活，very personal 就是生活的呗，那就下的啊的，也个里，这个的生活，那就从这所下去。Quran 的 original values 是那样的，呀呢，Quran 的中共 origin 什么的，这个的中共的卡车去。그런 meditation 시야 그런 배 술도지 다 가더라 그런게 original value 다 아니 그런 게 중국은 되게 카트해지 술도 파다지기 뭔가 있대
And from a certain perspective, this situation is good news. It's a situation that we should all welcome and that we should all pay attention to. It is very positive that more and more people are developing an interest or a curiosity about meditation. And therefore, we should welcome and assist this curiosity by paying even more attention than we did before to the topic of meditation, studying about meditation even more than we did before, so that we can support this surging interest. But from another perspective, there's elements of this trend that are worrisome. And I say that because what I see in some cases is what looks like it could be a trending toward meditation being used for commercial purposes, a trending toward meditation becoming a commercial commodity. So that aspect of this trend is concerning, because it would be a shame if meditation were to be completely separated from the traditions in which the practices were developed. Because there is, from the traditions in which it was developed and from its original value, if we allow these traditions and the original value of meditation to decline or to fall away, then that would be a shame. I think the practice of yoga has gone through similar phases. Originally, in India, the practice of yoga was strictly a spiritual practice, and from within spiritual practices, it was actually considered mostly as very secret practice, a practice that was very closely guarded and not taught widely. All of its practitioners very seriously devoted to spiritual pursuits through the practice of yoga. But in our contemporary world, we see that in some cases, the practice of yoga is more or less presented as a commercial commodity. And so that is an area of concern with regard to meditation. In actuality, the practice of meditation is very personal. And so if we were to allow meditation to be used just for commercial purposes, then I think that would cause meditation to lose its original value. It's important for us to maintain and continue to appreciate the original values of meditation and to stay connected to the source or the origins from which the practice of meditation arose.
Tandinza Ta Jidang Gidaji Gomnya Lensia Sanglo Ore Ta Duzer Ta Gomnya Lensia Sanglo Ji Ore Ta Duzien Dun Ta Drin Jusane Tikyun Zen Dene Ji Gom Magib Konglia Ji Gom Yin Go Samane Gom Debe Ribudu Sim, that thing Go Dodi Koranda Ji Gom Magib Konglia and you Susi Gulon Dias and Dad Ji Gom Jabgawegi Kashwada Ji Ji Gulon Senandando. Motivations and down. Hangi check, Gillieva Summerway. Me, you could just from the Gillieva. That day, Tazi Shavadi, Tazi Shavson and down. Ding a jiggy, the Tatsu Guadi, get him chat user.
Therefore, I feel that it is very important for us to examine our motivation for engaging in meditation before we set about meditating. So before we even start meditating, it's important for us to take a close look and ask, what is our motivation for doing this? What purpose are we trying to serve through our meditation practice? What goal are we trying to accomplish? Analyzing our own motivation in this way, we should try to develop as much clarity about that as we can, even before we begin meditating.
아주 참참 뒤주 망고치리야. 테크닉 공 테크닉이 준다를 배 뒤주 망고 쉬우 당하지. 테크닉이 ganga지 잘좀 만들지. 이나 조조의 공기 그런 가르쳐듯이 Go to do an assembly, atmospheres and around, and go to do that. What is loud? Some don't dance and around, simply crew ludi. Yakutuadi, Chichana, as a technique display, cash hedge, chatting or something.
Lassa? The reason why examining our motivation is important is because connecting with a clear, positive motivation creates a certain environment in our mind. And the environment of our mind is very, very influential in terms of how our meditation progresses or what happens, what quality our meditation comes out as. Sometimes we get so focused on the technique of meditation that we lose this bigger picture of what type of mental environment we have created for ourselves. We spend so much time worrying about whether or not we're doing the technique of meditation correctly. But when we really look carefully at the situation, I feel that the mental environment that we create, or in other words, the basic attitude that we bring to the practice of meditation is even more important than the degree of accuracy with which we perform the techniques of meditation.
제단다 디 가르쳐 데려야 배수행기 중국도 다 루유선 다 루유듯이 지셔야 다 데려야 다 까마봐 숨바는 정도 제디 다 까마 군지 준나네 다 그랑 미세기 지가르 군주 냠레 토리미나 시라기 지 캠바 게데라 나는 코란 로마 주바토바 망보를 주고 도시미래 제자 까마바 저중도 질이야 니메질이야 미지기 건주슈비스 곰 짬 먹어봐래야 가서 들지 미세 곰짬 먹어봐래야 들지 주바토베 안로 들지 당마지 여러베스 들지 제비나 나래야 나로시스 슈브레스 안데 정주도 지기 근데 여러스 곰짬 먹어봐 주바토아디 여러스 이내야 곰짬 먹어봐디 맹아디 초라나 떼나 요람미세 주바토에메 야하고 말았어 가르에서나 이 곰짬 먹어봐 당아디 초라나 떼나 초란 그냥 제 미시 이시미시 떠르스 you are trying 지 곰짬 먹어봐데라 곰 초란 곰자고 말다스 지 맹아 째요데 야 수수기 딜지 뭐 가서다지 야 쥐메 토안 가서다베 소주체 야 그런 가서다지 제 이시미시 떠르스 마도지 드네 유산 디균센데네 아니 지 곰잠 먹어 당화 결혼을 째베네야 안디 좋아 가서 패도 말았어 Understand?
Yes.
Nearly.
Oh yes, no, I think pretty much 99%.
나다 요말.
Last
저바침 보러 와는
라.
저주도 이제 저바침 보여 와.
Oh, last
저바침 보.
So we can look at a story from the history of Buddhism to illustrate a key point about meditation in a way that I think will be helpful. The third Karmapa from among the successive Karmapa incarnations was a master named Karmapa Rangjung Dorje. And he is very well known in history as having been a great master of the practice of meditation, to the extent that even many of his students were reputed to have achieved high accomplishments in meditation. So there is a story from the life of Karmapa Rangjung Dorje, the third Karmapa, in which a person approaches him and asks him a question, saying, I heard that there was a spiritual instruction that allows one to achieve liberation without practicing meditation. Does this instruction exist? And if so, would you please give it to me? The third Karmapa, Rangjung Dorje, responded by saying, yes, such an instruction exists, but if I were to give it to you, I'm not sure that it would help you. Because I'm not so certain that you would be able to understand this instruction and be able to practice it correctly. I'm not so sure that you wouldn't instead practice some type of contrived method rather than the actual intent of the instruction. And therefore, even though it exists, I don't think it would help you if I were to give it to you.
Actually, they are not like such like a meditation technique somewhere. Mizake. Da yo ma de sanan zhe du. Da zuo zuo di ji sem di ga zhuo de ji ji zhu zhu ge sem de za ji shui ji le tu ya sanan zhang du. Ya men just let it go. Da de ji xie tu ya di lo zhong xia di ge shim sha di all this.
Lasa? Yoma Re Sumna? Di Yoma Re Sumna?
Oh, not it. They are not such like meditation technique, not much.
Oh, Lasa.
More like you need to sort of know how to let it go.
Oh, Lasa.
Your mind.
Lasa. Gom Gitapshe Sanan. Ta Mangbo Sungyor Degini.
Not much.
So,
Like people thinking like a
Oh, Lasa. Ini Nengak Zo de Turki Loyares.
yeah.
Last.
Da ya wu du.
Okay.
Ya wu du.
Lasa.
Ke song ye gi ju chen ya wu du.
Lasa.
Ya na ti pe ge ri ju wu ra an ka le ya.
Lasa.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Your Holiness.
I think better you teach and I can translate into Tibetan.
Gosh. So, Your Holiness, please correct me if I'm translating incorrectly, but actually, at the end of the day, there really isn't all that much in terms of meditation instruction for us to do. The
Or technique.
Right. There really isn't that much in terms of technique in meditation for us to do. Really, the main point of meditation is learning how to relax our mind and, in some sense, learning how to just let it go. That's really the essential point of meditation.
Da de ya ji dang ben ji xin ne gom de ge wei ne. Xin ne de zuo de ji sem zi shi de ne ya. Ji sem ge nu ba de be ji du bong qi de. Pipe de ji na lo le be ji ka shuo. Da dang tu ya de shi guo ba.
Lasa?
Pipe de ji na nu ba de zi ji. Chu ba nan dang ba dan xi. Da de ji guo de, ji xia ba xia ba le, ngie le ya. Dang a ran zu da de ji sem di 라바르도 아주 지 야게 되는 총계난 대dengi 미디기 셈디 시라기다 가지고지 셈 치료도 이와 참보래 아니지 이외게 망보래 지 성의성이 이외게 성의성 망고 이미 유산 디 균센의 때네 셈 나도 두세는 나도 야는 지금 남버 또바되게 되마 지 쉬어체 Tene shine aruji sem zishidu nyang bezu xia. Tene mi yu san ta tang mung yan le ya, ji sem di kan zhi che che, 마 시월 내바 차 지금다 르르 차 드지 차디 다 계시면 차디 어느 섬도
Last song. In the practice of shamatha or calm abiding meditation, the main instruction is to allow our minds to rest one-pointedly on an object of focus. So what we do in the practice of calm abiding meditation is that we gather all of the energy of our mind and direct it in a focused way. A metaphor to illustrate this practice of gathering the energy of the mind and directing it in a focused way is like pouring water through a pipe. These days, in our modern world, and especially in cities, people's minds are very distracted toward outer objects, and the conditions or triggers for them becoming distracted are many. There's all kinds of material things and mundane concerns that distract us and take our attention away. And due to this, we are encouraged in the practice of calm abiding meditation to gather our attention inwardly. Rather than allowing our mind to be distracted toward outer objects, we're instructed to gather our attention inward and to allow our mind's thoughts, or allow the thinking mind to settle at ease in a state of calmness or peace. So we do need to bring effort into this practice of one-pointedly focusing our minds. But we do so in a relaxed way. So this one-pointed focus, as well as being relaxed at ease, are very important for the practice of meditation.
에 유산에 답변아 디린디야지 중을 셈대하로 된대기 공고는 이거 제시시켜입니다. 다 가장 쉬운 신기. 지당기 지 공기 자유 유산에 미바 대세기 유르디 지 미바 지 치료 유리에 와다. 에너지 나가 유리에 와다. 근데 가서나 치료 유리에 와진 사대지. 양고라 치료리야 미견을 샤제. 텔 미버지 돼야. 아니 양 참자야 지금 나가 지 수수기 양 imagination 제지. 나 근데 토네 양 텔 미견 체. 양 텔自己都啥了，근데 특히忙不下呀。다이네요. 다다디 운중을 셈대사데, 근데지 미견지 미세지 최고아 매바. 다다지 운중을 때 가디네 가지고 다 해지 유예인사. 거라 미견지 유예버래. 되게 주사네. 안들레지 셈대하데, 안다지 레라버지. 답대로 처리해 something.
Specifically, the practice of calm abiding meditation can be done in relationship to the breath. in relationship to our breathing. So to say a few words about that, generally speaking, the practice of meditation usually involves an object of focus, an object that we specifically employ to help our minds to become more settled and to help our attention become more directed. Sometimes this object of focus can be external, such as placing a certain physical object before our eyes and then directing our attention one-pointedly toward that. And sometimes the object of focus can be internal. It can be an image that we conjure with our imagination, that having conjured it, we then direct our attention one-pointedly towards it as a method for settling our mind and so forth. So there are many techniques of meditation in terms of what types of focal objects can be used. But the breath, when used as a focal object of meditation, has special advantages because one does not need to search for the breath somewhere else. The breath is something that is always present within us. So one doesn't need to go and look for an object of meditation. One doesn't need to conjure an object of focus, but one can simply direct one's attention to one's breath. And relating to the breath in this way, therefore, is a very simple and convenient way of using a focal object in meditation.
One point is 100% appreciation challenge. Tarang focus appreciation challenge. Taste the appreciation challenge.
Lasso. When we use the breath as our focal support in meditation, one way of describing the way we relate to it is to say that we focus our attention on the breath 100%. We focus our attention on the breath one-pointedly. Another way of expressing that is to say that we have full appreciation of our breath, of our breathing, that we taste our breath completely.
Appreciation full attention appreciation
and we engage in this practice continually. We place our attention on the breath and we try to be as fully attentive to it as we can in an uninterrupted way. As much as we can, we try to fully appreciate each breath, one after the other, in an uninterrupted manner.
Don't worry, you just relax.
If we find that we cannot keep our attention on the breath or fully appreciate the breath in an uninterrupted way, don't worry. We should simply relax. So being relaxed while we try to follow this meditation instruction is very important.
Relax hadi jidangi di tundadi karjorjan mi mangbuji samjana relax hadi attentionally samarwe kanzo ni relax cha thapshi chila
Lasa.
ina di relax mi chichen di relax mune di isama sab
We can explore the meaning of the instruction to relax as well. Some people interpret the instruction to relax as an intentional action. So they're engaging in some act of intentionally relaxing. But I think that this approach is not quite what is meant by the instruction to relax.
then don't try to relax.
Lasa?
Trying is not relax.
Lasa? Rather, the real meaning of relax is that we should not try to relax, because when we are trying, we are not relaxing.
Then you sang a rhythm yuji gom yao ne di ji cha jian de zuo jian di zu ti di zu na la yo na yo to ten ka sha ten na ten to xian na xie to sa ki ji yo de da di ga de sa na ta su su gi da di ji relax che da lo ji lo ge yo
Lasa?
da di ga de sa na ji xi ba ji su su gi mi ba de se ga de ya mi ba de ma tu ji da mi ba de e tu da真正别去羡慕，对马土贝呢，对马土贝刚拉爬下下是，对土贝呢，俺对土贝刚爬下下是，马头对马土贝的对一土大，呀，这个对土贝的没土贝，这个 worry 钱，这钱我买的是，马土贝呢，这个都是大浪啊爬下下是，对土呢大浪刚爬下下是，看到了，果然这。mi bo zhe ji de tu so na mi be yu di a go dang gi di nga ma di ga le mi be yu di nga ma di ga le sha ma tu bi ne mi ba sa ba ji mi be yu sa ba ji le mi bo be bi ne ya ko chen ba di mu tu dian tum dan zhe wo de shi
Lasa? In the guiding instructions of the meditation traditions called Mahamudra and Dzogchen, the Great Perfection, we hear instructions that encourage us to rest our minds directly within the movement of the mind, to rest our attention directly within the recollection of the mind, the thinking mind, to rest our attention directly within the perceptions of the mind, the perceiving mind. Instructions such as these are teaching us how to relax in meditation. Because sometimes what happens to us in meditation is that if we can't first focus, if we're not first able to focus on the object that we have established as our focal object, then we worry about that and we try to wrestle with our mind to get it to focus again. But from the Mahamudra and Dzogchen perspective, the instruction is if we find that we are not able to focus on the focal object, then we simply rest our mind within that very state of not being able to focus. If we find that we are able to focus on the focal object, then we rest our mind in that very state of being able to focus. But what we do not do is enter into a state of worry if we find that we are not initially able to focus. So we don't need to panic and try to get our mind to focus again if we discover that our mind has lost focus. If we can be relaxed with our mind in this way, then even when different objects appear before our mind, objects different from the initial focal objects, we will still be able to remain within a state of mindfulness. And our basic awareness and attentiveness of mind will continue uninterrupted.
Bebe u galba ji sha sha bu chi ka shi de do u ga yong do shi u jung sim de yin de san u ga yong do san de an lao shi sim ji go sa bu che je be ge nem sha ge su chi sam dang me u ga yong do u da do men do shi an je za ma gom de cha ma sha la sha cha su de xie ni chong su. We need to, it's not like you feel very heavy, because mind just put on some of that. More like flu, like a sort of air, and the flies and the flu. That's what I say. Yang bu che kwa. U ma ro do na, and they are set up che sha ba ma yin ba. It's more like a flexibility. There is go. Then you say, "Oh, my damn oh, chiru do ba tang be go le oh, the lenji do ka just same day focus check one do do some. Oh, na no be go le there lenji do flu some that there lenji do 균 drop to average. Then this cheche and that same day ji heavy heaviness goes over the Anna Singi Chiki Tamdam Ding of Maimba Haja Jikaradaji Karadaji Lungyo and I sing the Jiggy sometime I went to something.
That's all. Another misunderstanding that we can sometimes bring into our meditation is that we consider our mind or our...
It's like more like a target. Kasi sometimes you did it snapper.
Snapper.
Snapper is somewhere where the mental young at you.
Oh, that's sniper.
Ah,
sniper.
Okay, I can't hear properly. That be focus shade the Ganshi Tina. Me yet to the Shibuji did get Tauro.
That ain't.
That focus she said, but the Kashi didn't change yourself.
Lasso?
But not like that.
Lasso? So another mistaken approach that we sometimes bring into meditation is that we treat our mind basically as if it's something heavy, and we're really we're trying to put it squarely on top of our breath, as if the breath is then going to be pressed down or anchored by the mind in some way, that it's being placed on top of it. So that's not a beneficial approach to meditation on the breath. Some people have told me that when they practice meditation on the breath, their breathing stops. And it's very uncomfortable, so they have to stop meditating. So it seems to me that the people who have this problem might be taking too heavy of an approach with their attention of mind. They're taking this approach where they're treating mind like it's a heavy object, and they're trying to press down their breath with it. So we don't need to treat our mind or our attention like it's something heavy that is pressing down on the breath. Rather, we should treat our mind as something fluid, like flowing air that is moving together with the breath. So when we breathe out and our exhalation is leaving our nostrils, we simply think that, the breath is going out. And we let our mind flow together with the breath. So we don't need tense concentration. We don't need stiffness in our quality of attention. We can let our mind be light like air and flow together, flow gently together with the breath. So some people treat the practice of meditation almost as if their mind is like a sniper looking through a scope to very intensely observe the target that is at a distance. But our meditation practice should not be like that. Rather, we should allow our mind to be light and flowing.
Then you say, "Dan dan na singi u ti, kurang nam ju u jua kan datang ye bene, tiada si tang ma tu siya u jungu cewek kalia miseji, karsuji, make effort tu cewek u, shuk cempat aro tu je cewek skem tu wa, dan u de kerja ni tang tang berapa sih, aja. Then you say di juzen dene, nam ju kerja当个月边啊，当然是吃去。参上啊，就地呢，中午maybe 3点，我们这里车位够了，唱个家去用的。怕个是当说最个真我说就唱个家去。但呢，之前参上的唱个的没加个。第二话就是来，他说的是 relax 就行啊，就唱个就给点的啊。And changka jaya na yang focus jaya tang di sunyam do ngene ya bo chung men do tene du sane de changka ma jun de chung men do sam
Lhasa? Ngayon la yapo yung gimindu. Sina go la yapo yung gimindu.
What?
Okay, never mind. Never mind. I got it.
I didn't have breakfast. Don't be upset. Okay?
No. I had too much breakfast.
No.
Yes.
I had lots of people angry because they didn't have enough food.
Yes.
Don't make me angry.
Okay. I'll try not to make you hangry. Furthermore, the way that we breathe when we meditate should simply be our natural way of breathing. It's just the same as the way we always breathe normally. We don't need to make any special effort to make our breath be a certain way. Just breathe the way that you normally breathe. Also, many people do a practice of meditation on the breath that involves counting the breath. So sometimes we count sets of exhalation and inhalation, or sometimes we count how many inhalations we have had or how many exhalations we have had and so forth. I think for the time being it might be better to emphasize not counting the breath and simply relaxing together with the breath, relaxing together with a gentle focus on the breath itself. Because sometimes trying to have the quality of focusing and the activity of counting can make things a little bit too busy. So perhaps it's best for the time being to just do the practice of relaxing together with the breath, without counting.
다 될래야지 튠용을 장가 마와서는 시지 고란 주주디 유당의 이내 직셋 망고를 제제 아니 지 양내 양도 지 당도야 중에 야고야래 다 디사 아 창원로 자와 차오시라래 이 유산에 지 nga공리야 지 딘데 지 검으로 검튠 지 딘데 야 주주마도 아니 배지 주주시라요 말에 다 딘데 기도안에 지 신의 주야사데 가보시라면로 섬정 신의 주야사데 지금 다왕으로 딘데래야 오늘 전에 지 인텐시브 포커스로 제제 그런데 지 내면바로 지 가는 조제 이제 그 토안에 오늘 전에 딱 가지고 지 인텐시브 포커스 딘데 토안에 엑서사이즈 제비미나 안 갈라간 섬지 영화지 마도 다다지 니맛 따발 지 팀뷰를 지하리 저진의 벤더 연구하래 지 샘지 되지 시와차라지 안디지 포커스야 토래야 벤더 연구하래 되네 다정아 저기 배선 지 중내 시합은 진 이제 신의 주야사다 가보시라면로 섬정도 나머지 등상 내 왼발에 농부 멤버 질레네 딱 가봐도 레인 것도 와
라서?
가봐도 질레인 주사네 아니 다 갈라가고 유서래다
And then in terms of the way we can structure our sessions of meditation, there is a common instruction from the teachings that says we should do short sessions many times. That is a very good practice to adopt, doing short periods of meditation again and again, repeatedly. However, if we really want to practice meditation in a very complete way and accomplish the qualities of calm abiding, or shamatha, as they are explained in the traditional texts, this is not so simple. I don't think those qualities can be achieved just through a light and casual relationship with meditation practice. Properly speaking, the practice of calm abiding, when the qualities of calm abiding are achieved in many cases through months of intensive retreat practice. So if one really devotes oneself to that type of a retreat environment and continually exercises oneself in the practice of calm abiding, then one can truly accomplish the qualities of the mind that is abiding in a state of peace. But apart from that, just doing a little bit of practice on a daily basis is not really going to take us that far. Of course, it will be beneficial. It will have some benefit. It will help us to calm our minds down. It will help us to increase our mind's ability to focus. But it's not going to bring us all the way to the place where we get to where we have achieved the qualities of calm abiding meditation that are taught in the traditional texts. Furthermore, these days even doing retreats is more challenging because the traditional texts always say that one should go to an isolated place or a remote place in order to practice meditation. But these days, cell phone connections even go to the remote places. So I think it's very tricky for us in this present day.
And also it's very important from the very beginning, you should do it properly. Someone that is jadi, come here, catch me staying. I'm going to go to India, Yabu Chetuna, a Joyapcha.
Lasa?
I'm going to Indusane, G. Daji Yabra, G. Machuna, and Haji Tigi Bear, Lord Luci, Lane, some of the good short. And then I guess you had it. How was I inside? How about Mr. Gong calling me? He said, I'm in the very beginning, I was showing to Nabro. And Shamado is got how it is. Jingazudi, that the focus had the churching near, it's very churching, very boring.
Lasa?
Not so exciting. That is not mythology, exciting the go about that. That is gay or man. That Tamu goes to very boring to say. Jeza Susuki, Deleabe, Uzu Gebcha, Be Susin Chen, Mudu Gomotuna. And a go Galika, Tambuchi, Gomji, Yonama, the Raja Majunche, and Tata Galicale, Casual the G, Susu Guno, Lerio on short in the Chavina, dig it, Lodi, and the G. The girl was short to do Stane. And Mom, but the Gonga Chimine, Dash, one compliment or sometime. The angels and Tambuniji, Tomaniji, from the very beginning, society exciting that kind of freshness. Did you ever cut on it? I was a while, catch me.
Lasa? Gom la Joa.
Oh, Tambun.
The Gom Korang la Joa.
Sure, yeah.
Lasa?
Yeah. Not much time.
Another important point is that it's important for us to do our best to practice meditation correctly from the very beginning of our relationship with meditation. If we can put energy into practicing correctly from the very beginning, from the very outset, then I think there's hope that our meditation will progress well. But if we get into bad habits around our meditation, then I think that really plants a seed of energy in our meditation that somewhat taints our practice, somewhat pollutes our practice in a way that's difficult to remove that negative influence later. Especially one of the most challenging things about meditation and working with the ability to focus our minds is that it can be quite boring. It's not so exciting. It's not so entertaining. And these days, of course, we have so many cravings for excitement. Lhasa? For excitement and entertainment, our minds are like small children. Small children can give attention to something for a short amount of time, but then they very quickly run off to something else. So it's very important for us to be aware of this tendency of our mind and try to head that tendency off when we begin to meditate and set a very clear intention that we're going to persevere, that we're going to be patient and persevere through the stages that might feel boring and continue our practice of the meditation instructions. If we can practice in that way, our meditation can progress in a positive way. But if we get into bad habits of meditation and allow ourselves to give in to our distractions and cravings while we are meditating, in the early stages of our path, then it's going to be very difficult to get rid of those negative habits later on. And so that's going to make it difficult for our meditation to progress well. So instead, we should actually make ourselves excited about meditation, rather than just following the habits of wanting to be entertained or wanting to be made excited by something else. We should try to develop a full-hearted enthusiasm and delight toward the practice of meditation.
Ta ding san du zui lia ji gong ye xie ba so ma le ji de nga lia ba shu ji ta ji a zu gong ye xie ba de bi ju zu bi ju da ji da de nga lia long jia du zhuang de ya de gom sa de zu de ji chu ba yi xie ba ta de bi ju da ji ji sam ding ge de wa ji de ya long jia lu xi zu de ji de yin ju san da di ju zen de ne 다당 안 성로 다지 치 그거 야게치 이 스타트스 많지 않아 다지 공예시 봐 조디 배주 체제 주요하네 제가 디균세 되네 안다지 삼땡이 대화 근데 배주 주 이시에 배주 체제 근데 삼땡이 대화를 해서하디 안다지 이상 지 가지고 고급으로 시작하지 매배서 다지 깔아가고 시작이요 다들 인주산다 디규젠데네 아니 다들 인버지 공고알다 망고시라 쉬싱면도 다 들어가자 다지 공기 티노이 디지 인비 수누 체제 안 간소를 해줬어 다 쉬브래
These days, we are very much invested in the 5 sense consciousnesses, the perceptions of visible forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and objects of touch. Our minds are continually distracted toward the 5 sensory objects and enjoying the pleasures that those types of objects might provide us. But meditation, on the other hand, is mainly centered around the 6th type of consciousness, the mental consciousness, and the type of pleasure that one enjoys in the context of meditation is the pleasure of meditative focus. In the current era, there is such an emphasis on external development. And this external development is mainly connected to just the 5 sense consciousnesses. Whereas the practice of meditation and the pleasure of meditative concentration is connected to the 6th consciousness. But there's not a lot of support in our contemporary society that encourages us to relate with this 6th consciousness and to enjoy the pleasure of meditative concentration. And from that perspective, our
example 시에는 정말 좋소.
Lassa?
배랑 아주 배율이야. 아 충주산에 다 등산은 신기 미세게 다시 야게를 이렇게 요만. comfort down 다는 신기듯이 직권고 쿠구르 이게 상황 강해요만 다는 유지 쪼부르시래 디산 디주기 내단 삼단 is very 가져다 native American source 이 좋아하게다 배 쉽진 되면 좋아하게다 쉽지 다 진대나 런치야 얘도 야래 디나 다다 능신지 다다 안주배 능신 데배 직배 표준 속으로 지다 다는 신기 가르치지 나가망불 지게요만에 다는 유지 배 롱어 자사망 비린이야 저 배주 단대야 저 배주 단대더라고다 롱어 야자 동타리야 배 롱지야데 저배 롱지지 사바 서버를 지금 가지고 지금 남자 프로젝트 사버를 되게 많다. 사디니 가지고 얘기도 지 밤에 양매에서 말에 디주 사대 아주 사대로 고야 되서네 밤에 양매 그런데 아주 그런데 요래 근데 미세기 지 가지고 exciting charu ji sabar ke yo ma ta ine semdi kala concept ki bu yo re je da samdan de ko ti ji da something da ngone de ma re de something de ve so che ta lo de bur che che sem ji bur che de not much worry ji ti sabo guaro ji da ni kusumen de bar sta ke me lo de bur che de 아이네 디사 곧 벤조르다 쿠구드즈 망볼레 연주사 안 로데 보면도 가제 많아 되지 가수에 누르 친제 가제 많아 탑차원 거지 이제 좋아를 이제 임베다 just exam
나서 So our current society doesn't seem to strongly support cultivating and relating with the sixth consciousness, the mental consciousness, in a way that we can further our enjoyment of the comfort or pleasure of meditative stability. Therefore, it's a bit of a challenging environment to live in with regard to meditation. For example, I could speak about the environment that I grew up in as a child. In my home area, there was not a great deal of outer development. And in terms of sources of comfort, there were outer sources of comfort, but not very many, and not very wide in variety. In a word, you could say that we were poor. But in another sense, you could say that the lifestyle we lived, the way we related to our environment and our notion of enjoyment, I think it's very similar to the indigenous peoples of North America and the way they, for centuries, related to their environment and their notions of enjoyment, their understanding of enjoyment. So we did have things to enjoy and outer objects that we turned to for pleasure and so forth, but not in the same way that these types of things exist today, not in such vast abundance and such staggering variety. Instead, we basically used the same types of things that our ancestors used for enjoyment for hundreds of years. There weren't really many new products, and there certainly weren't new products coming out all of the time in order to generate more excitement and serve as sources for further entertainment. Whatever our parents and grandparents wore, that was the types of clothes that we wore. Whatever our parents and grandparents ate, that was the types of food that we ate. But our minds were happy. I think it's difficult to say that the comfort and happiness that we enjoyed was the bliss of meditative concentration, but at the same time, perhaps it wasn't too far off. Our minds on the inside were very content. We didn't have many worries on our mind. But then if we look at our contemporary world and its staggering outer advancements, it seems to be that misery has increased in proportion to outer developments. So we have more and more economic, industrial, technological advancement and development, but it seems that just to that degree, we also have more and more advancement of our own misery and lack of contentment. So this is just an example.
다들 더 참사해. 다들 더 참사.
Lesson?
다들 검지 시행님들 대시. 다들 인비 수제. 다 가르쳐지. 내 인비 수를 강조 인비 수를 제다 이제를 제제. 도시아라도 막시다 탑시게면도. 다들 네 인고다 안다 잠에 양게 와자도 심래.
Lesson? So I think we should conclude at this point, and I think this is the best I can offer in terms of an explanation of the practice of meditation. I don't think it's a fully authentic guiding instruction for the practice of meditation, but we can have that pretense that I have given an instruction on meditation and you have received an instruction on meditation, and we can call it a morning. And then, in terms of this afternoon session, we will proceed with the empowerment of Manjushri.